Hi. The other day I made a video tutorial on how to make a snow type effect. Now the purpose of the video was to use a bunch of different types of code and to show how we might use them in different ways. If you're using it to actually achieve the effect of snow falling, we shouldn't be using that specific way. Um, in an object-heavy game, it's going to cause problems. Um, you could probably get away with it in other, in smaller games. Um, so what you want to use instead is a particle system, and so that's what we're going to use today. So yesterday was more really about, you know, showing how to spawn objects in a room, things like that, uh, going through image index. But the user made a great point on the Gamemaker Reddit that I should show how you should actually make the effect too if you want to make the effect. So let's do that. Let's do sprite Snowflake. And this is just going to be a 8x8 piece, and we're going to just color it in white. We're going to center it. Now let's open a room really quick, and let's also now create our object, that's going to hold our particle system. Object make snow. And I should probably signify that it's using particles, but what we could do too is just create a group, PE or particle effects, and we can just drag the object into that, and that way we will know. And it'll tell us make snow, so that's what the effect will do. In the create event, we're going to want to do this. Oops. Particle equals part system create. Then we're going to want to assign it parts. So we want to assign it now a particle. So P1 particle 1 equals part type create. So now we're creating a particle, and now we're going to assign that particle a sprite. So we're telling it right now, and I want to bring up this, so the index. So we're saying for part type sprite, the index for this index, assign it this sprite. Are we going to animate? No. Are we going to stretch? No. Choose a random image? No. So those will all be false. But that's what this is. It's saying for P1, assign it this sprite, which is SPR Snowflake. Oops. Then false for animation. It's not going to animate, so because there is no sub images to animate to, it's just that one image. So just write false, and then do we want it to stretch? No. So false. And do we want it to choose a random sub image? No. False. I shut this though because it's so freaking huge. So now we want to do lifespan. So how long do we want it to live for? Part type life. And remember, we have to assign it. So for this particle type, P1, what do we want its lifespan to be? And we want it to be a minimum of room speed, so 1 second, with a maximum of room speed. And we could, if we want to change these values to, like, let's say we want to do 2 seconds, we could just do times 2, or room speed times 1.5 would be 1.5 seconds, times 2.5, 2.5 seconds. But right now it's just going to say the minimum room speed we want it to, minimum lifespan we want is 1 second. Maximum lifespan we want is 1 second. Part, type, size. So we want to tell it how big we want it. So our particle 1, we want it to be pretty small. So let's do the smallest you can actually make it, 0.01, 0.01. And then the other one should be how much to increase, which, oops. So we have our increase right there, and it says how much a particle should increase or decrease per step. And the lowest we can have it is 0.01, it looks like. So let's now close out of that. 0.01. And then we want the final piece was wiggle, the variance in between. So how much should it randomly added or subtracted to the particle size? And we don't want it to do that, so we're just going to write 0 for that one. We have our part, type, direction, and this is how we're going to make it move in the direction we want it to move. So P1, and we're going to do 240 to 260. And remember, 0 is on the right, 90 is straight up, 180 is to the left, and 270 is down. So our particles are going to move like this, down this way. So now we have that, and at what speed? I believe that one is speed. The next one is increase. So how much should it increase per step? So we're going to write that at 0.1. And the wiggle, and I think we want that to be 0. I don't think we want it to do that. Then we have our sprite, we have our life, size, direction, and speed. Our part, type, speed, P1, remember we have to assign it. It's going to be, let's open this up to show it. So the minimum speed the particle can start at, and we want it to remain the same. So 3 and 3. The max and the minimum are the same. How much do we want it to increase? Well, we don't want it to increase. We want it to stay the same speed. And then we want 0 for the last one as well, which I should show the wiggle and what that says. How much should randomly be added or subtracted to the particle speed per step? And we don't want that. We don't want it to be randomly added to. Oh geez, that car's loud outside. Anyway, so now we want to do something called part, type, depth, and we can't actually call it here yet. We need to write something in between here, or else it won't read it properly. So we need to create the second particle as well. So let's create the second particle, which is just this. We're only going to change one thing on there. So we're going to change P1 to P2. So this is for the second particle, because we're going to be creating a sort of line down. So after the first one's lifespan of 1 second, we're going to create this particle and set it to 1 second, but we're going to slightly change the direction to between 230 and 250. And then what we're going to do is, when in our part-time depth, what we're going to want to do is take P1 and the amount we're going to spawn. So let me write it out first, then I'll explain it. P2. So part type depth. So when P1 dies, so when that particle dies, we want to create one particle of P2, and we create that piece. So we're creating a sort of line. So when it dies and it goes like this, like it's coming down this way, it'll then choose a random direction between this way. So it'll start going that way. And then we want to change back to the same direction as this one when that one's dead. So we're going to load this one in now, but change this to P3. So we have P3, 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 and P3. And we're just going to leave the direction back, so it just sort of quickly goes that way, then comes back. And I should probably play it too. But let's create the part type depth. And we're just going to swap it 2 to 3. And let's create our step event, and inside here we're going to randomize, because we want to get a random X just like before. So in the other tutorial, I should use iRandom for the random range for that. I will. It'll make one of the users happy. And that should be the right one to floor. And yep, that's the correct one to floor. If we didn't want to floor it, we would use random range without the I. Oh, the reason I'm doing plus 400 is because when we're coming this way, we want it to be able to hit when it hits the bottom, because it is coming a little bit slanted. So if we didn't add 2 plus room width, it'd only come here, and then it'd start to trail down here, and we'd miss a huge section of screen for the snow. But and here we're going to particles create. Now, because we have it so it's chaining down, we're only creating the first particle system of particle Rx, the particle system contains all those particles, P1 and P2, P3 and P4. But we're only going to spawn Rx minus 200. This is in case, actually 20 should be good, in case at the end it trails back in, it wants to come back in the room. Maybe 50. Like if we successfully get it to move. Oops. And I believe the next one is y, so that's negative 30, or negative actually 10 should be good. That'll cover the height of our sprite even if it wasn't centered and was at the top, but we did center it. But negative 10, and that's just so it doesn't spawn right here. It spawns outside of the screen area. Then we want to actually spawn the particles. So the first one, the P1, is the one we're going to spawn, and we just want to spawn one of them. So that's what this last number is, the amount. We could say 100, but it would spawn it at that random range, 100 of those, and then 100 as it changed down, and that would barely change on each of the ones chaining down, but for the first one, they would all go in the same direction if I put 100. Alright, so we have that, and we're actually set for a test run, I think, except for this is not correct. I never deleted the extra parenthesis, I don't think. Oh, because I changed the format. So let's do negative, so that way we wouldn't have to actually do the other thing either. We could just do this, just do RX. So we have the low, and then we need the high, which is 768, but we're just going to do room width plus 300 should be good. I don't think it's going to go more than like 200 actually, but 300, it should be, make sure that it covers this area if it's more that way. Anyway, so this is going to give us a value between negative 50 and room width plus 300, and it's going to spawn in one of those areas, and it's only going to spawn one per step. So every 30 or every second it's going to spawn 30 of these particles, because once per step, and there's 30 steps in a room. Let's throw the object in the room. Let's test this now. And come on. Oh, you know what we need to do? Let's change the background to black so we can actually see the snow. It was working though. I did see it on the gray background. It wasn't very visible, so I shut it. There we go. So we have a little bit of snow, and as you can see, it goes like this, and it starts to sway a little bit. In a little bit of a range, and what we would do is we would just repeat that all the way down, the same thing. That's what it looks like, so you don't really have to watch the rest of the video if you don't want to. I'm just going to finish putting it all the way down so people can see what the effect would look like if they wanted to. And it's really just copy and paste type. Well, you know what I could do too? I bet you there, if I sat down and thought about it, there'd be a way to script it. Oh no, P3 to P4. Right? And we also want to change this value down. But let's paste this, and let's put this at now. We'll just go to 235 to 245. Give it like a really sharp burst of wind. It should really sharply turn for a second. And I'm actually going to only do that for a... No, maybe I should keep it for a full second. Okay. And then we want to go from 235, and we'll go back down to this, but turn that to 250. so it doesn't go up too much. It goes up 5 each, and we'll put 4, 4, oops, 4, and 5. And this is 5. I'd say probably 2 more will be decent enough to actually, what we could do too, just to speed it up a little bit, times 2, let's do that. So towards the end it's going to go for 2 seconds longer, which unfortunately means it's going to also grow a little bit bigger too. 5 to 6. Control C. Control 7 all the way across. And did we change? That's 240 to 250. That's 240 to 250. We're going to want to change this to 235. 235 to 260 now. Give it a little bit of range as it really starts to go towards the bot, and then we'll go back to a more narrowed range. And we'll go 265. Alright, let's see how that looks. That should be pretty close to the full screen. Yep, and you see it starts to get bigger because I waited 2 seconds instead of the 1 second towards the end. So maybe I should have just made it go for the rest of the way from there if I was going to make it, or put it to 1.5. I like how it sparkles, but I think what I might also want to do is really mix it up. Like keep this one as a main one, and keep some have one that just goes like one way, like maybe this way, along with this, but not tied into it. So it doesn't. It's not in part of the chain. It's its own piece that just comes behind it. All right. Hope that helped. Have a good one.